I've coached over 100 language learners, and a common trend that I tend to see is that learners fall off of making progress because they keep on having to restop and restart all over again. Not because of lack of effort, but more so because they are burnt out from not having a sustainable system that actually works for their brain, their goals, and their life. And because I saw so much of this happening, that is how I devised this 7-part system that I want to share with you in this video today, called the Mindful Fluency Method, that really helps you master your language, but entirely on your own terms, done entirely your way, and not linked to anyone else's expectations, but your own, to help you remember how enjoyable of a process this really actually is, and the joy that you probably started out with as you started to learn your language, but maybe lost along the way. It is very easy to just think about copying someone else's routine that you see online. And you think, well, if they did it, then I can just follow exactly what they do, and then I'll get fluent just like they have. While that is a logical reasoning that we're thinking about here, we are entirely discounting what makes a routine sustainable in the first place. That means total personalization of what we are doing and keeping in mind all of the personal limits that we have in terms of our energy, our time, our obligations, finances, help that's available, different resources, anything that is a hindrance or a help in terms of our language learning cannot be considered just by looking at someone else's routine. And that is the backstage that we will never fully get to understand from any other language learner. So we might as well just concentrate on ourselves. And if we are not doing well, then the rest of our system for language learning, no matter how great it is going to collapse. So let me show you how we can one-on-one build together a system that works for your life and your energy, all of the obligations that you have, as well as what you find most enjoyable through the Mindful Fluency Method. Let's go to my presentation. One thing that I always want to make clear is that anything that we go through in this method is based on my 3 U's, quote unquote, principles of language learning. And that means we make every part of your system useful, sustainable, and enjoyable. So what exactly is this method made up of? I have divided it into 7 parts of transformation, and it's really split into 4 phases that you'll go through when you do work with me as your language coach inside my one-on-one coaching program, Multilingual You. Let's look at phase 1, which is called grounding and covers the first 2 parts. We first have the purpose anchor. And the reason why I like to start with this at the beginning is because we really want to move beyond, I want to learn so-and-so language and SMART goals, to instead clarifying our sweet spot goals that are aligned with our rhythm and our purpose, as well as values. So we go really deeply here, beyond the surface level of what we're doing. Because I notice a lot of language learners as well, sometimes when they come to me, are unsure of how, even though they enjoy language learning, how they see language learning fit into their purpose in life, let's say. So we really anchor your language journey to your purpose so that even when motivation dips, you still stay grounded and you still stay disciplined in a joyful way. Part 2, that's when we really complete the audit together of everything that you are using. So we'll sort through everything you've been using and keep only what truly works for you. And we also stop any hoarding of endless resources, solve any sort of shiny object syndrome or fear of missing out that might be getting in your own way. And we identify really what aligns with your specific goals, as well as how you learn best. With phase 2, building, we go into part 3, which is the language project, which is where I get to work with you a lot, one-on-one live. So this part is crucial because we aren't just talking about strategies in theory anymore. We really combine what we know, right, the essentials and best practice strategies for the different skills, such as writing, listening, speaking, reading, etc. We do talk about those, but then we combine it with giving you clarity and getting you into action so you do stay accountable inside the coaching sessions and outside of them as well. So we don't want to just build another routine that you have to throw away from week to week. Instead, we build this 9-month-long language project that stops your procrastination. It does hold you accountable, and it lets you practically apply the skills you want to improve, even when you are on a busy schedule. For part 4, we're going to curate more of your resources. And this is really, again, following the curriculum of the Resilient Learner Library. So you'll master every step of how learning a language actually works. So again, you don't have to guess how you learn. And then by the end, you'll be able to execute the best practices that are tailored to you, right? And how is best for you to include in your system. And this work also helps us build the foundations, again, of that system that supports your independent growth outside of the program once it ends. We then enter into phase 3, which is flowing, and that encompasses first, part 5, the experimentation cycle. And why this is crucial is we want to give you a chance to have a structured test run where we adjust not only your study routine, but your system to your real life. And that means, balancing your mindset, outside obligations, energy levels to the aligned goals and purpose you had already previously determined. We make intentional adjustments to your system while following the flow of our language project at the same time. And part 5 wraps into part 6 really well because we're going to talk more about our boundaries and our patterns that we identify when we quote unquote get in our own way, because it can be really frustrating, right? Truly, the main person that can hold us back is us and our learning. But we are also the solution, the main solution to actually learning fluently on our own terms, right? So we really work together to identify those behavioral patterns, and we set boundaries and hold you accountable for sticking to those boundaries, right? And that is how you master truly how to recover more quickly from any emotional, mental, sort of logistical barriers that you face in your journey at any point. We then move into phase 4, thriving, which really speaks to more long-term autonomy, and that all goes into being able to master your seasons. We go a lot more into detail with what this means inside the actual program, but it's basically being able to transition efficiently from different seasons of learning, also according, right, to whatever is going on in your life at that point when life gets lifing, right? And you'll build this skill to reach fluency and maintain your language as well for life, okay? So with that being said, once you do experience what the method is, you'll be able to duplicate it and your unique learning system that you build with me with any future languages, and as well provide you with how you can become your own best teacher and coach. Because really, it's not me, it's you who is the best authority on how your language learning will go. So now that we understand more about how the Mindful Fluency Method actually works, in practice, I want to show you how Alex, who has been one of my clients for a really long time, could finally learn his language with confidence and speak Spanish more fluently. We caught up with each other because he was wondering how he was even capable of learning 3 languages all at once. Even the idea of trying to juggle that many at a time was really overwhelming. Also, he wanted to sit for the B2 Spanish exam, but he didn't know the best way to go about it. And after we worked together, he started to figure out that it was really between phases 6 and 7, being able to identify how he learned best based off the language learning season, the life season that he was in, and adjusting his routine, his system accordingly that we had built, plus identifying and making sure he stuck to certain boundaries that he needed to have in place in order to again, make his system enjoyable and also more sustainable over the long term. Once we had all of those factors in place, then he could just stop second guessing whatever he was wanting to do for his routine. He became his own authority on his own routine. And that's something that I also referenced when we were talking about how to become your own best teacher and coach by the end of mastering this method, right? Because I always operate from the philosophy that language learners always have. They always know best already inside them what they need when they need to do it when for their language learning. It's just very buried underneath all of the other loudness and messiness of what it means to go through the language learning process inherently, right? But once we really got those into place for him, he had so much more focus. He had so much more motivation. He was able to actually gain momentum with staying consistent in a way that fit how he learns best, in the way that fit his life. And he was also able to confidently, I'm happy to report, walk into the B2 room and speak Spanish and also pass the exam. And that is exactly why I founded this method for you and for other solo language learners who have ambitious goals, but they feel burned out. They feel frustrated and overwhelmed with the entire process. I know exactly what it feels like to have such focused tunnel vision on what we want towards fluency that we just feel totally derailed by all of these details and problems that we didn't expect, any sort of mental, emotional, logistical barriers that are inevitably going to come up in such an involved process like language learning. But I wanted to make this method especially for language learners who were just tired of guessing what to do next, right? They know what to do next with this method, and they know that anything that they do in their routine is never a waste of time for them. Because again, they know how they learn best. They know that any sort of FOMO, or let's say shiny object syndrome that they might have faced before, is no longer factoring in for how they make decisions about what's best for them in their routine for the week. Because again, they like to prioritize what they already have, right? And you have the exact same capability to keep you focused, to keep on making the process enjoyable and sustainable for you, but also having a lot of fun along the way, because that's also the point of why we're probably engaging with learning in the first place. I do highly recommend you grab a copy if you haven't already in the pinned comment below for the Language Learning Sustainability Planner. It does walk you through around the first 2 phases of this method in helping you build a more sustainable routine, really helps meet you where you're at, as I've said before. And I will also tell again that trying to learn a language in a specific way, whether that be with a certain resource that isn't working for the way that we learn, whether that is the pace that we're trying to keep up with others with, right? Trying to learn a language fast, but it's still not a sustainable pace for us, right? There are so many more ways to learn a language and get fluent our way, not someone else's way, right? And the way to center our experience instead of feeling like we just have to fit our lives around our language learning consistently all the time in order to be fluent. I know that it can feel really disheartening to be in a place where you just feel like fluency is just really far away and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel to actually achieving your goals that used to excite you at the beginning, but now are making you doubt yourself in this moment. But there are so many options available for us. And if we keep on resisting our own pace and we keep on not wanting to meet ourselves right where we're at, then we are on a clear road to frustration and burnout at some point. I do not want that for you. Building fluency in your own way, on your own terms, can be done, but with a system in place that aligns with who you really are, right? So that being said, if you are interested in seeing if we would be a good fit to work together in one-on-one and go through this process together and get you fluent on your own terms, then do book a also free discovery call in the pinned comment below, and I will get back to you very shortly. Other than that, thank you for watching this video. It was lovely to have you here, and I'll see you in another video soon.